Never Joe, never Joe, never Joe. Oh, money, never money, never money, money, never money, money. I know what you conniving money, money, never money, never money, money, never money, money. You can keep your conniving money when you've been knocked for a bum. And I've been tell me money. Now because your money done, you come with conniving money. When you had your pocket full, and I've been tell me money. Now because your money done, you hustle for tell me money. Yes, money, never money, never money, money, never money, money. Now know what you conniving money. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. That's all the money that me walk for. A 2 pound note and a kill that piece. A 2 pound note and a kill that piece. A 2 pound note and a kill that piece. This all the money that me walk for. I said money, neighbor, money, neighbor, money, money, neighbor, money, money. Now I don't want you conniving money. Oh, Joseph.
Kissed by the warm breezes of the Caribbean, this orange beauty has 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, large modern kitchen, and a living room with an open concept. This lovely home is within walking distance to the sea, where you can take a dip in the salt waters and feel refreshed. Verone's cheerful country manor, located at Tushin, West Coast Demerara. Bookings are available on Airbnb. Contact Veronica at 516-524-1559 for more details. We hope to see you soon.
to another program of Buxtonian Morning Time. It is 7 hours 23. Y'all think I'm late? No, I'm not late. I'm deliberate.
Kissed by the warm breezes of the Caribbean, this orange beauty has 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, large modern kitchen, and a living room with an open concept. This lovely home is within walking distance to the sea, where you can take a dip in the salt waters and feel refreshed. Verone's cheerful country manor, located at Tushin, West Coast Demerara. Bookings are available on Airbnb. Contact Veronica at 516-524-1559 for more details. We hope to see you soon.
Welcome to another program of Buxtonian Morning Time at 24 minutes past the 7 o'clock hour. Like I said, I'm not late, I'm deliberate. But y'all still in share the life to get to where we want it to be. So share the life, no man. I'll share the life. This morning, Dr. Hinds, Professor David Hinds is going to be on, and we're going to be talking about issues in the society. Last week we missed him. There was a mix-up last week. Am I right? Last week? Yeah. And so he wasn't on. But this week he's definitely going to be on. And we're going to be talking about the things. How have you been? How was your yesterday and your last night? Did you make some money yesterday and get some rest last night? You know, mankind seems to believe that that is the most important thing, or those are the most important things. Making money and getting some rest, right? You know, when we talk about people having life in London, we say they could eat, sleep, and shit as they like. There's no work involved in that. Eat, sleep, and shit as you like. There's no work involved in that. You're living the good life if you can do that. How many of you live in the good life? But will your good life transcend the good life for your offspring, for your next generations? Right? As a matter of fact, will your good life even be so good for you in later years? If all you want to do is eat, sleep, and shit, you don't exercise, you don't burn calories, your body becomes sluggish, and so as you age, you start realizing that, hey, eating, sleeping, and shitting is not the best things in life. There are other things that must be added to that equation to make your life better. Right? And so I'm asking you, yes, you can eat. You have a roof over your head. You wear clothes. Some will say they provide for their families. But is that all that matters for a good life? How do you feel when you look out the door or the window and you recognize that your community is in squalor? You live in squalor. Those of you will tell me, I ain't living in no squalor. I live in the Young Professionals Housing Scheme. How do you look when you look out and you realize that if you spit too hard, it could go into your neighbor's living room? What quality of lives are we really living? Is it enough that we have a job, that we earn income? Is it enough? These are things we must ask ourselves. Is it enough when we are quote-unquote getting by and we look all around us and we see oppression, depression? We see a set of people being pushed to the periphery of the state, of the society. We come to recognize that because there are others who are being pushed to the periphery of the society, there are others who are so oppressed that they can't put a meal properly on their table. And they will come to a point of desperation where they will want to take it from me because I have it. How do we feel when that happens? Oh, they can't take nothing from me. I go in and get a 9mm. I call in a doctor at the office of the president and pay you $1 million and get a licensed firearm. Or get a license for the firearm. And then I go in and buy the firearm. Because I got to protect what I got. And them out there who ain't got nothing, can't come and take what I got. Right? How do you feel? Is that a good life? Does that represent the best state of life? Living in life in London, as we like to say. You know, I usually tell you a lot of times I don't write what I come to you and talk about in the mornings. I get inspired. Maybe because I overthink all the time. I have all of these negatives in my head that I need to address. I don't generally sit and write. But when I start to think and discuss things, memories flood me. 2 weeks ago I was in Pontrench Dam talking with those residents who are going to be displaced so that government can pass a 3-lane road, 3-lane highway through the communities of West La Penitence and Albistown. And I stopped at the head of the street and I was talking to a group of young men there. And there, that interaction has taught me a whole lot about them and our black society, our communities, our country. When I went down further into the street, I spoke with, of course, what's his name? The guy from the gym and so on, and the other folks further along. And I also learned from them. We will always have in our communities those people who believe that they're so comfortable that they don't have to do anything else. But they don't pay attention to what made them comfortable. For example, this young quote-unquote businessman I talked to at the top of the street said he is a contractor. And he is happy for the development that is going to take place because it will force some people with certain kinds of mentality out of the area. Yeah. Certain people with a lazy mentality going to get forced out of the area. They're going to get moved. I'm paraphrasing, but I think that is what he said. Close, those words are as close to what he said. So I asked him, I said, how did you get your start as a contractor? He said, I think his grandmother decided that of all the people around her, she was going to hand her property to him. At some point, I pointed out, you had a start. You had a positive start. You had assets to start with. Because that property started to be rented. He started renting it out. He tried other things along the way, certainly. But he arrived in my mind, or in his mind. And so we say we're comfortable. We don't look at those who did not get anything, whose grandparents had nothing to hand to them. And so they're really starting from the bottom. They got to pull themselves up from the bootstrap, as we say. But we believe that we are so comfortable that we have no business concerning ourselves with those who are not comfortable and those who are oppressed and suppressed. But let us find ourselves in problems in that very community. And we will come to find out it is the oppressed and the suppressed who, in many instances, run to our rescue first. Because those who are comfortable like we are will remain in their comfort and won't bat an eyelid. Keep that in mind. It's Wednesday. Dr. Hinds is on the program. We can continue this line of thought, this train of thought, this conversation, maybe tomorrow. But you have a lot to think about. I hope you have a lot to think about. Dr. Hinds, good morning. Welcome to the program. You're muted.
Good morning.
How you been? It's 2 weeks since we last saw you.
Well, I'm on Politics 101 in the evenings.
Well, let me burst your bubble before you continue. There are people who will only look at BUXTONIAN morning time.
Okay, all right.
Right? Good. So you have an account to them also.
Okay.
All right, so it's been a while. Well, we know we missed last week for whatever reasons. But so much has been happening in the society nevertheless. I want to start this morning with something that not surprised me, but quite coincident, call it a pleasant surprise, call it whatever. Yesterday morning on my program, the topic of CPL cricket came up. And I was saying to the viewers, don't ask me about no CPL cricket. I ain't supporting no CPL cricket. I ain't going to no cricket. Because it is a vessel of corruption used by this current administration. Get behind the scenes and find out who are the beneficial owners of Amazon Warriors and stuff like that. And look at how taxpayers' money is being used to buy out thousands of tickets and distribute for distribution in particular communities and to get favors and all of that. And so, while I'm a patriot, I ain't supporting no cricket because of the fact that I see it as a vessel of corruption. Someone said it's uniting. Cricket brings the people together. And my response to that was, if cricket is uniting, why, if we look at the Afro-Guyanese communities, there are no proper cricketing facilities. There are no cricketing academies. In Buxton, for example, the Minister of Sport actually instructed that no cricket must be played on the Buxton ball ground after he pulled down the zinc fence and put up a short chain link fence and stuff like that. And lo and behold, when I went to social media late in the day, I saw that your topic for last night's Politics 101 was going to be cricket, clutching at straw. Because there are people here who perhaps would not have looked at your program. Give us a synopsis of what that discussion was about.
Well, I'm trying to tease out the importance of cricket to the West Indian psyche, and that cricket is, I don't know the extent today, but historically cricket has been used as a tool of liberation against colonialism, imperialism, external domination. Insofar as internal racial unity is concerned, cricket has not been an example of internal unity. Insofar as it has brought the islands together to play as one West Indies team, yes, but even that has been fraught with insularity. In 1967, for example, Barbados played the rest of the world on its own. Barbados felt it was so powerful that it wanted to go alone. And it played the rest of the world, and Sir Frank Warrell died during that game. And as they were bringing his body from Jamaica, they circled the ground that the game was being played. Barbados never went that way again. But there's always been insularity. But we have managed to stay together as a West Indies team. But when it comes to racial unity in Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana, cricket has not been able to forge that unity. Some people here may be too young to remember. In the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and I think quite into the 90s, I don't know how prevalent it is now, when Pakistan and India toured the West Indies, the majority of East Indians would support India and Pakistan over the West Indies. They would want to deny it now. But that was patently clear. I used to be in the cricket grounds as a little boy and a big man, and you experience that. So when people go out for a 2020 festival match, now this is not a Guyana team. This team is not a Guyana team. You got 11 players playing there. 6 of them are from Guyana, 5 from other places. And people are going out in numbers because it's a party. CPL is a party. It's not a serious cricket game. If next week you bring West Indies versus any team in the world, you're not going to get that crowd. I guarantee you that. You are not going to get that crowd. It's not a reaction to cricket. It's a reaction to party. And as David Rudder says in Trinity to the Bone, how we party is not how we vote. How we party is not how we vote. People going out there to a party, they're having a good time. And if you sit down in the ground and you are having a good time at a party and the person sitting down next to you is an Indian or an African, as the case may be, why don't we take a drink? We've always done that. In spite of our political differences, we have always, when we meet up as Guyanese, West Indians, we've always had a good time. But once the party is over, that's it. We've gone back into our silos. We've gone back into our silos. You know, Naim Chan, a commentator and a good friend, said on the Gerdari Freddie Kisson program on Monday night, when he saw Moti and Edmire Hogg, he thought of me. I thought of David Hinds and how those people are unbugging racial unity. Moti and Edmire Hoggin is nothing new. Chandapal and Upahog, I'm old enough to know that Sobers and Kanai hogged, Alituran and Lloyd hogged. What is this big deal of people going out to a festival match of cricketers hogging? The cricketers hogging, however, has not brought racial unity to Guyana, because when those guys are on the cricket field, power is not at stake. Power, political power is not at stake there. Economic power is not at stake at Providence. Providence is a party. If political power were at stake there, if economic power were at stake, you would see a different reaction from our people. But no power is at stake there. We're having a good time. And people are trying to translate that to mean there is some big racial unity that is there. Give me a break. Give me a break. That is why I'm saying these people are clutching at straws, because we have exposed them. We have exposed the apartheid. And if you notice, every day, one of them is responding to apartheid. Responding there. And that's where we have them. They have to defend themselves, and they're not an apartheid state. So they see Edmire and Moti Hogg, and they say, look, the Indian guy and black cricketer hogging. Guyana is not an apartheid state. Look, you have 10,000 people in the studio, in the stadium. Black people and Indian people, look, they're jumping up together. Well, if that's the proof that Guyana is not an apartheid state, they're clutching at straws. That was essentially my argument.
But Dr. Hinds, there are two things I want to say to add to this whole discussion about them clutching at straws. Sarwan and Chris Gayle hugged. And Chris Gayle had a lot of nasty things to say or expose about Sarwan in that T20 fallout after Chris Gayle came to Ghana and was taken to Linden, I think, by Kush or somebody. And eventually he was booted from the T20 team and replaced by Sarwan in some positions and so on. And they hugged because they played together at some point in time, even when the West Indies team, right? But that doesn't say that there isn't that difference, let me say that, among them. And this apartheid that they're using cricket to perhaps try to negate, the evidence of apartheid is present in the cricket ground. Look at where the patrons go. Who goes where? Who can afford what? Who sits where? Examine the numbers and you will see whether or not there's apartheid. You will see the state of economic deprivation, I want to call it, in the society. Look at where the tickets are given out. Who gets what? Right? Because this government, through its Ministry of Sports and Presidency and all of them, they give out a lot of tickets. Let's examine who got what. Look at the makeup of the patrons in those stands, and you will see the apartheid in the economic discrimination. So the very thing that they use or attempt to use to say, hey, this thing is not true, the evidence is right there. But as we're talking about that, and the other issues, let me turn your attention to the Bishop from the Ministry of Public Works, Public Infrastructure. I don't know if you saw that article of Farm to Market Road established in Boris, and someone commenting that this road is better than what city dwellers use. The response of the bishop was, yes, we are doing things. And if the residents of Georgetown, or let the residents of Georgetown vote for the PPP, and we will do things to them and city council. What's your reaction to such arrogance?
He's being honest. That's my reaction. He's saying what we ought to know. We shouldn't have to wait for the bishop to say that to know that. I think some of our supporters, understandably so, because we have love, and some of our supporters have to hear these things for themselves. He's just being honest. It's like when Jack Dio said the PPP is an Indian political party. People were all surprised. What are you saying? What we already know. Let's get on with the game. That is why when they ask me for evidence of that Guyana is an apartheid state, I usually say to them, why are you asking me for evidence? You all know the evidence. Look, what the bishop said there, if he said that, what he said there, that is the evidence. Don't ask me for the evidence.
And that statement is also in keeping with his utterances in the National Assembly. If I review where this money is going...
yeah, he says social cohesion will be disrupted. The people are giving us the evidence.
Indeed. Last week I intended to talk with you about a visit I made to Pontrench Dam with Takumo Gonse 2 Sundays ago, because there's a 3-lane highway that is going to pass from Saffron Street to Cemetery Road through the communities of West La Penitence and Boyston. There are a number of residents who occupy what they refer to as the government reserve there. I understand it was actually the trench and it was filled in, right? And they were given what's many considered short notice to remove. The residents claim that they were told they had 3 hours and then they had 3 days. Or they had 30 minutes and then they had 3 days to remove. But what is happening currently, some persons have moved. There are others who, up to when we went there, were still there. And the development was taking place around them. I compared that to a visit that Ali and Nanla made to Annandale North. To the seashore, a number of squatters occupied land there when the coalition went into office in 2015. So let's say about 5 years, 7 tops. The people on the Pontrench Dam, some of them have been there for 40 plus years, according to what they said. Nanlal and Ali came to Annandale and said to the people at Annandale, listen, you have to remove from here. We are going to organize so that you get relocated into housing schemes. We are going to organize so that you can go to the banks for financing. Again, simply will say there is evidence of apartheid. But I want you to address, and let me add to that. Last week, a team of officials and police went from the Ministry of Housing, led by one Mr. DION, into Mocha, Arcadia area, Caneview, and proceeded to break down a 2-story concrete structure belonging to one of the residents there. Despite protestations, that this land is ancestral land. I want you to address the whole difference in treatment for removal and relocation, compensation, and consideration for what? Human dignity.
Well, I mean, it's self-evident. It's self-evident. And the strategy of the PPP is clear. That is, the objective is domination, political and economic domination. That's their objective. You see it in 2020. The 2020 election was and is a defining moment in Guyanese politics. Defining. Because that wasn't an election. That was more than an election. It was a case of an election being used to transfer power, total power, to one side of the political divide, one side of the ethnic divide. And that transfer of power was done against the backdrop of other developments in and around the society. That election was about US-Venezuela relations. That election was about EXXON and its economic foothold in Guyana. That election was about who governs, who gets to distribute the wealth that is coming to Guyana. That has always been a salient question, and it has been kicked down from 1955 to the present. It has been kicked down the road. And 2020, the decision was made finally. Who gets to unilaterally distribute the resources that are coming? And so 2020 was a defining moment. Look across the political aisle. What do you see? You see Indian Guyanese political elites, Indian Guyanese economic elites, Indian Guyanese cultural elites, Indian Guyanese independent activists and thinkers, Indian Guyanese Muslims, Indian Guyanese Hindus, Indian Guyanese Christians. They're all sitting on the same bench. It's amazing. Freddie Kissoon and Ravi Dev are sitting next to each other in the same pew. Never happened before. Freddie Kissoon is an urban Indian who represented a particular Indian outlook up until 2020. And he couldn't coexist with Ravi Dev. Ravi Dev is an Indian cultural nationalist who has no time for an urban Indian. But Ravi Dev is sitting next to that urban Indian today. Those in the PPP think that Freddie Kissoon is wild and crazy. But they're sitting in the same pew today. What 2020 has done is that it has brought the Indian elites together in a common agreement on what, it doesn't mean that they agree on everything. They still have their disagreements. But they agree on one thing, is that the destiny of Indian Guyanese over the next 3 to 4 decades has to be secured. And it will be secured with Indian unity. From Glenlal to Kissoon to Dev to Barajagdio, you name them, they're all agreed on one thing. It means, therefore, if you are going to construct Indian hegemony in all of the institutions of the society, you have to answer the question, why are you excluding black people? And your answer to that is that black leaders have destroyed black people. Black people are a burden. They need help because their leaders have abandoned them. They have cultural problems. They don't have role models. They are susceptible to violence and violent narratives. So the Martin Shops and Richard Burks and David Hinds, you have to discredit them among black people. And so the script is there. So what you do with black people is to say, you are second class, not because anybody did you anything. Your leaders have made you second class citizen or third class citizen. And what we're going to do, we're going to move you up from third class to second class. And as we are moving you, we have to move Indian people too. The thing is that we are moving Indian people into a more secured first class. So the average black person who doesn't have an overall understanding of what's happening around him will say, what is progress? Look, I have 52 bridges that they're going to build $52 million. There are 26 of us. 52 million is big money. But when you break it down, it's 2 million. An Indian guy goes to what he place them on Main Street and blow that out in an hour. The $2 million that you're giving these boys and telling them is progress. An Indian dude goes to the Palm Court and blows that $2 million out in an hour. But the average little contractor in the village doesn't have that panoramic understanding of what's happening around the society. And so he falls into the thing that, boy, 52 million is progress. It's 2 million for you. And by the time you finish paying the workers and things, you carry home, unless you rob your workers and pay them next to nothing, you're probably carrying home $1 million, which an Indian guy blows in 15 minutes. So there is the overall plot in the society of how you do it. You see, in the past on the Jack deal, there was no science to the discrimination. It was raw. They have now worked out a way to make the discrimination appear palatable. And then they create this orphan alley that the Indian elites are pushing East different. What they're saying, look, East different from Jack Dio. It's Jack Dio they're throwing under the bus. Right? But you see, Jack Dio's in the government. They want Jack Dio guile. But Jack Dio can be the face of the con. Because Jack Dio did it in your face. This orphan alley is a con. And they're constructing this con as the opposite of Jack Dio. And you hear the Indian elites, I am supporting Dr. Ali. Listen to their narrative. Very few of them is saying, I'm supporting the PPP. I am supporting Dr. Ali. So you're constructing Dr. Ali as this savior, this different kind of leader. And then you come up with this one Guyana. Our people like slogans, one people, one nation, one destiny. If you hear some black people who are, when they denounce one Guyana, they're juxtaposing it with one people, one nation, one destiny. Well, they're both slogans. They're both slogans. One was a PNC slogan, this one is a PPP slogan, and they're both slogans. And we people in the Caribbean, we like slogans. And the people have thrown this one guy out there. And the rest of us have to respond to it. What they don't like about the emerging apartheid state is that the emerging apartheid state, with one swipe of the pen, has destroyed one Guyana. The slogan now is emerging apartheid. And that is why they've responded so viscerally to the apartheid thing, because it has kicked the one Guyana thing out the door. Even the Indians now, the Indian elites, every day they're responding to apartheid. Because what we have done with the construction of apartheid is to denigrate and kick out the window their one Guyana slogan. And so when you look at how they're going about, they're building the roads and all that thing you explain about Pontrench Dam and so on, it's part of that larger thrust. At least we're building a road, we're building a highway. In the process of building the highway, we are kicking you off lands that you were on for 40 years. But it's progress. And you hear some black people with it. You hear some black people with it. I am not worried that black people are calling it progress, because I think at the end of the day, your lived reality is what determines things. But for now, black people are into the thing is progress. You build a 4-lane highway, that's progress. How many lives are being destroyed and dislocated because you're building this highway? People are not going to see it now. When they begin to personally feel it, then they will see it. That is why I am not cursing the young men who get the $2 million to build 2 bridges. God knows that they and their family need it. But I'm very confident that they would recognize in short order the con, because they're being conned. They're given $52 million, and you go to the next community and they're given 10 times that. We have established that. But what I'm adding to the discourse here this morning is that that is drink money. for the average Indian dude. He goes to Palm Court and knocked out in half an hour. And that is going to close in on this section of the black community that are not yet clear of the con game that is going on.
A con game indeed, like I pointed out. While they're singing about 56 million given to 25 contractors to do 25 bridges in Buxton. 100 million has been given to one Indian contractor to do a bridge in BV Triumph. And so the vast difference there is, like you suggested, one Buxtonian contractor may be able to take home $1 million. May. The man who gets a bridge for $100 million will be able to take home perhaps $20 million. He's 20 times better off.
That's right.
Right. And so the income gap, the opportunities for investment, all of it widens. Right? Widens a whole lot. Like the farm to market road that Bobby's gets as against other communities that get nothing but blows in their back. Let's turn our attention now to the issue of protest. The lack of energy for protest. Because like I pointed out in the situation in Mocha, here you have authorities breaking down the home of a resident, and you don't have a human barricade formed to protect that asset of the community by the residents. I'm hearing a lot of explanations. People are fed up. People feel betrayed by the opposition members. People are caught up in bread and butter struggle. People are fearful of losing their jobs. Do you subscribe to any of these suggestions?
No, if you take all of those things by themselves, if you take them one by one, you don't make the argument. And so I would not do that. Although I recognize that all of those factors determine whether people protest or not. Look, this is a human question. It's a human question. We try to make protest deterministic, you know? That if you come in my place, you break down a house illegally, I'm supposed to protest. And if you do that, you're turning the human being into a machine with somebody with a remote control, you know, controlling them. You're taking the humanity out of people. And we activists have to be very careful about that. I've been saying that for 2 years and more on this program. This thing that we have in our head, that if you do so, you're supposed to get this reaction. That's not how human beings operate. You study human beings, whether you study psychology, whether you study history, whether you study biology, whether you study politics, human beings are not that predictable. They're not that predictable. And we want to turn them into predictable animals. And in that sense, we're playing into the hands of the PPP. Because the PPP is saying the same thing. They're saying, look, we can beat up these people. And they're not going to protest because they're not listening to Kidaki and they're not listening to David Hinds. They are also turning our people into machines. People without soul, people without minds. They're saying, we will do this and you will not get a reaction from these people. And we are saying, you will do this and we're supposed to get a reaction. from these people. I reject it from both sides. Human beings are not animals that you can control with a remote control. You jump on their back and you beat them. My donkey. Yeah. Even animals does buck that system. And I am warning, I've been doing it for 2.5 years. Stop reducing our people to soulless, brainless machines. They are not. Human beings are not. You study protest and resistance all over the world. There are two types of resistance. There is spontaneous action. The human mind is partly spontaneous. Nobody knows. Nobody can direct it. And then there is what you call organized protest, which is the kind of protest that you go among people and you work with them. The old revolutionaries used to call, you say, you go among people and you educate them. I don't like that term, educate. And people are already educated. But you go among them and you work with them. So, sometimes spontaneity and organization clash. And that's where you get the big protest. But you cannot, as Frederick Douglass said, you cannot expect plants to grow fruits if you don't till the soil and you don't water the plants. And we are falling into that trap. We are falling into that trap. And we are ending up at the same place that the PPP is ending up. And that is that our people are soulless and brainless. And so I reject that thing. I am, go and do the work. Go and do the work. If you're a serious political activist, no serious political activist will sit down and say, I will only do the work if people will come out. You go and do the work. So that's my position on this thing about why people are not coming out to protest and so on. I just think it's the wrong conversation. I think it's an obscene conversation. And I don't want to be part of it.
Thank you, Dr. Hinds. It's 12 minutes past the 8 o'clock hour. Anything you want to raise before you open the lines?
No, I am at your service. If you ask me the questions, I will respond to them.
Very well. The lines are home, therefore. 6225933 is the number to call. I noticed recently there was the installation of an IMC at the Linear Utility Services co-op, and the Lindeners are now kicking up a storm to have that IMC removed. When it was installed at first, it would seem as though the Lindeners really didn't care three hoots, but now they are in the 8th day of protest, I think, to have that IMC removed. Is it?
Well, I mean, you notice you said they didn't care a hoot. How do you know they didn't care?
Well, I said it appears as though.
Because they didn't come out and protest then, they didn't care. They're protesting now. Protest, they care. And when does care, when does don't care end and care begins? And then they're reducing human beings to soulless, non-thinking people. The fact that they are protesting in its aid proves my point.
Well, the question I was asking, if it's a move too late, because you wait until the IMC is installed. You didn't challenge it then, but here you are challenging it weeks or months after.
Was 1838 too late when we came out of the plantation? Why we didn't come out in 1823 after the Demerara Rebellion? It was 1838, 15 years late. We cannot make those arguments about human behavior. We cannot. It's not the kind of reasoning that will take us to a place where people come together and challenge the conditions around them. At the end of the day, it's consciousness. And consciousness is not a unilateral straight line thing. Activists, because some people call us entrepreneurs, some people call us hustlers, because we are always trying to give the people consciousness. Because we think we get consciousness. What Walter Rodney has taught us is that you go among people and you learn from them. Guyana puts it very philosophically. That is, you work among people, take the people's experiences, refine them, and give them back to people as political and cultural nourishment. They're activists in Linden. They're activists in Linden. And you have to give them some credit for the consciousness raising, not as a one-day phenomenon, but as a constant phenomenon. And if you engage in the groundings, as you ground with people, consciousness arises out. And it is that consciousness that drives political action. And you don't determine people must get consciousness as soon as an IMC is installed. Look, there is a consciousness, go and protest. That is mechanistic. And human beings don't operate like that. In fact, they will resent you for doing that. You're sure not to get anywhere with them if you're trying to turn them into things that you can manipulate. They will resent you.
Thank you. The lines remain open. We'll continue to keep the lines open while Dr. Hinds and I chat. Someone keep Henry is saying, listen. And I think it's in response to what you said. The activists, the leaders must go there and do the work, and don't say go in only if people will come. Kwame went out there and did the work alone. He got killed. Where was the show of support for his cause after he was executed? You care to address that?
The cause for which he was fighting, according to 2015, the people gave government to Kwame Wing Party. And what are we talking about? I have to do a little talk like a Michael here. What are we talking about?
Did Kwame Wing Party give justice to Kwame Wing?
I am not discussing that. You asked me one question, which is what did we get in return for his sacrifice? His party got political power. What they did with it is another story.
Well, it's a logical question. Because the family is saying,
No. If you ask me the two questions together, you are pushing for the logical conclusion that he died in vain.
No, sir. Not at all. Not at all. It's a kind of discourse that is taking place, right? Listen, this man sacrificed. He made the ultimate sacrifice. His family made the ultimate sacrifice, or they lost because of his ultimate sacrifice. The long run, in exchange to that, the society benefited because they had a change of government, which is what he was fighting for. How did that change of government assuage the turmoil and everything that the family wasn't still going through, is going through?
Kinaki, I hear your question, but when you ask the two questions together, what you are driving at is that the lack of optimum performance by the government, if we come to that conclusion that the government did not use the 5 years effectively, then the conclusion is that ultimately Crummy Wing's death was in vain. And I'm saying I am not discussing the two questions together. I first of all have to discuss them separately. Because if I discuss them together, then I am making a leap. And I think we ought, that's what the PPP is doing. When they say that your government didn't do anything for you all, they're making one sweeping statement. And a proper analysis of the 5 years will show that the government did do some things for their supporters. They didn't do a lot of things for their support, but they did do something. Is what the old Marxists will call the dialectics. There's no one single straight line answer in political and social analysis. Political and social analysis has to be as complex as the problem is complex. If the coalition government, yes, it didn't do farm to road markets. Yes, it didn't do the cash grant at the WPA. Yes, it didn't tackle the African Guyanese problem as a problem that is unique in our multi-ethnic society. It didn't do those things. But it didn't lose the police to go and shoot the Clinton accusers of the war. You have to juxtapose the two. You have to look at them in its totality. And don't fall into the PPP trap by saying the government didn't do nothing for black people. It's one thing to say the government didn't do anything for its supporters. But then when you take the argument to race, then you are justifying the treatment that you are giving to this race. That this race has been abandoned by its own organic leaders. That this race is listless. That this race is needy. You are playing into that argument.
Well, you see, Dr. Hinds, let me be anyhow. Let me don't describe myself here. The question is asked for clarity. The question is asked to give the professor the opportunity to explain to us laymen, the coalition supporters, the members of the African Guyanese Society, Black Society, whatever you will call it. The question is asked so that you can provide that clarity of understanding for us. It's not me wanting to play into the hands of the PPP.
I agree with that, but now is not the time for devil's advocate. Now is the time for clear analysis and intentional analysis. Yes, a year ago, yes, but we are at this point now, we have to engage in intentionality. Now is not the time for black people to play devil's advocate. Now is the time for black people to be black advocates.
Well,
and that's my point. That's my point. When I hear the devil's advocate question, I'm saying maybe at another juncture in history. At this juncture in history, we have to be intentional about our narratives. We We have to be intentional about our questions, and we cannot play devil's advocate. We should not, because the other side is going to take advantage.
But I take that, but what I'm saying is, if the masses are grappling with these questions, unless we address them, whether we call it as devil advocacy or not, unless we address them, we don't help them to come to an understanding of what they're grappling with.
Yeah, and I am not denying it. I'm just saying, don't ask me to do it from a position of devil's advocate. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you. I can't take your call now. We can talk about it later. What's his name? Quietly. All right, I'll take his call. Caller, hold the line, please. Quietly. A year has passed since our in Boston was murdered by the agents of the state. I'm not sure that I read in the press about it. I'm not sure that I heard of any discussion about it. Is this another black brother just murdered by the state and forgotten?
That's a question for me?
Yes, it's a question for you.
Well, the questioner
because the entire black society...
The questioner is raising the name Orin Boston. So he has not been forgotten. Again, I got to do the circle, Michael. What are we talking about? You are raising Orin Boston and saying he been forgotten. No, you have not forgotten him. And why do you think you're the only one who remembers him?
So then the flip side is, why is there no public, quote-unquote, struggle for his killers to be brought to justice?
What is there is there a public struggle for anything?
Good morning.
Is there a public struggle for anything? Come on, brothers. Let's be real.
Calling your line, good morning.
Good morning, Kadaki. Good morning, Mr. Hinds. I really, I would tend to agree with what Mr. Hinds is saying in terms of, and I think I mentioned it last week, we should not, we try, you know, we're always in the position. This is the morning after all. Are you been a stadium go watch cricket? This is the morning after all. I had a rollicking time at cricket in Carnival. It's the morning before the night when you're going to come back and all into tomorrow morning. It is the morning before the night when you are going to carnival your troubles away. But what happens tomorrow? What happens tomorrow? The drunk man say, you know, the problem with me is that I got to always drunk. Because I don't know where wrong. Every time I sober is a set of problems I got to deal with.
And when I drunk, I don't get all the problem. So it's best I stay drunk so me ain't got no problem to get with people. That is the behavior of some of y'all. Some of us, we stay drunk so we don't have to confront that which confronts us. That which is bitter. That which is bad. That which is frightening in our eyes. You know, some people, when they go to bed in the night, they cover up from head to toe. Some of them got a thing that is put over their face, over their eyes. Something like a bandana. They put it over their eyes. So they are in total darkness. And they say they're happy, they're comfortable there because they have done what? They have locked out their fears. How many are like that? How many of us are like that? We go to carnival and we bacchanal. Throw your troubles over your shoulder. Bend over and whine. And just as a what are you? Listen, share the life. Nothing good wasn't going to come out of my mouth. Yes, share the life. Share the life, please and thank you. Y'all gotta share this life. I'm gonna play the drums till y'all don't share the life. Play the life, share the life, share the life, share the life. Share the life, share away, man. Smash that emoji button. Share the light. Tag somebody. Tell them that we talking truth this morning as usual. People's egos gonna get bruised. Y'all friend Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus. I know you listening but you can't comment. Somebody said it ain't Panchai or some kind of eye. That nearest subscriber you do, girl. You gotta come and spend a day with me, Buxton. Let me show them what unity is. When we were kissing a few hours ago. Don't offend them now. I ain't hungry belly. As a matter of fact, I was told I'm full of energy. You notice how energetic this morning? Somebody say I am in high spirits. Huh? It's so much energy I got. I don't kiss and tell, but you're forcing me to tell you things this morning. Share the life. One, claret, one, claret, one, claret, one. Claret, Claret go, claret go, claret go. The election of duty, we find you guilty. Go, claret go, claret go, claret go. Lado, yeah, watch out them trench, gonna crawl out. Watch out them trench, gonna crawl out this morning because talking about corruption in apartheid Guyana. Corruptions and cover-ups, CC. Corruptions and cover-ups in apartheid Guyana. Only some people could be corrupt and not face their day in court. You got the straight, or you got to be a house slave. Y'all remember the Guyana corruption scandal? Not a single one of them straight here nor house slaves were made to face the courts. Right? PPP. Always covering up a corruption. We got a big one, man. We got one at Enmore, NDC. We got one on the East Bank. I think that's Eccles, Ramsburg, something like that. Corruption, corruption, corruption. Yes. We got allegations of sexual predatory behavior by the same man that was saved from jail. He didn't get to face a day in court. They never charged him or anything. The PPP got a wicked spirit in them. They like to cover up wickedness. The same one that they caught in the corruption during the distribution of the COVID-19 grant is now tied up in a sexual predatory behavior matter. I understand the Ministry of Education is involved. Social Services is involved. But this is a PPP boy. He does a lot of good work for the PPP on the East Coast. You think whatever her name is, that woman, what's her name? Vinya Prasad, is going to allow social services to do anything to him? I understand a file was sent to the DPP, the hack, in relation to this matter. But you believe that a hack will allow the PPP good boy on the East Coast to go down for sexual predatory behavior? I don't know if it is buggery, but there's a charge in the books by that name, buggery, so y'all don't think I'm lewd. But why I said I don't know if it is buggery, I don't know if the victim does the act to the accused, if it is buggery or it is seduction, or I don't know what it is. But what I can tell you is that there is such a nasty, stinking, dirty story on the East Coast in the education system. You know, when we play Kwekwe in the villages, we sing, tell them pick the mama, for shut our chamber window. The glorious farmer is coming down to marry their beautiful daughter. In this instance, we got to tell them pick the mama, shut a chamber window. There's a predator in the secondary school system, and he's being protected by his cronies. Yes, but we were talking about the morning before the night. Who is this? Who is Garfield? He must have said Diraj. Who is Diraj? The only Diraj I know gives lessons on the East Coast at Enmore. I understand he has been transferred from the school that he is currently, or should have been currently teaching, and is now going to be sent to the Golden Grove Secondary. Is that the same Diraj you're talking about, Mr. Amos? Somebody say he's a PPP good boy on the East Coast. Is that Diraj? Be careful. Careful with your children. Be very careful with your boy child. Anyhow, we are talking about the morning after the Bacchanal at the stadium and the night before and the morning before the Bacchanal where at the National Park or someplace. A lot of us, and this is what governments do, this is what dictatorships do. They give us circuses, Bacchanal and circuses, so that we can be distracted from the real issues which confront us. What are the issues confronting you today? Public servants have still not gotten an increase in pay. We still have an apartheid state. Because like I said, if you wanted to know how divided this nation is, I wanted to see how you want to see the wealth disparity, income disparity in this society. Go right at the cricket carnival, right at the Bacchanal, the T20 cricket, and you will see the people who can afford to buy the tickets to the expensive stands as against those who can only afford grass mounds. And if you want to see apartheid, I was told if you go to the, I'm going right there because I want to show you it. But while I talk about it, if you go to the Ministry of Tourism page, right? If you go to the Ministry of Tourism page, they will show you scenes from the cricket carnival, or whatever they call it. And when you look at those scenes, you will see how many Afro-Guyanese are in those scenes. Right? How many Afro-Guyanese are in that scene? Those scenes. Hundreds of scenes. But you can hardly see Afro-Guyanese in them because Afro-Guyanese can hardly afford to go to cricket. Right? They don't like us to talk about these things, but the fact is, we're living in an apartheid state, and who don't like it, lump it. Y'all must go and check out the photos, man, and see these scenes. The evidence is always there, you know. I always look for the evidence. So when I say y'all living in an apartheid state, and you are being distracted by fete and bacchanal, and you're biting and you're taking, as they say, you're swallowing the, what? You're swallowing the bait, hook, line, and sinker. Free tickets and free liquor, and then black man good. Years ago, I was told that a certain PPP politician of African ancestry said, give them bacchanal and cook up. They're going to be all right. They say he's a beneficial owner of it, St. James. So he had to, you know, they perhaps give him the opportunity to give Guyanese bacchanal and cook up. And they're going to be all right. But while some of us are believing that we live in the good life because we can get a free ticket to go to every bacchanal that the PPP organizes, to distract us from our troubles, there's still those of us who are woke enough to recognize that this thing can't be long-lasting. I asked you yesterday, how well do you feel living in a neighborhood where you tell yourself that you're better off than the others, but when you look around, all you're seeing is squalor? And with that in mind, I promised that I was going to discuss those two interactions I had on Pontrench Dam a couple Sundays ago. While I'm at it, I need some people to walk with me Sunday afternoon. Hit me up if you have the time. Let's go spend 2 hours in one of these Georgetown communities. Talk with the people, share some flyers and so on. Hit me up. I need a team to walk with. Y'all ain't gotta be WPA. I'm the face of WPA, but y'all ain't gotta be WPA. We're going to do political work, activism. We're going to do work to make our people aware of what they're confronted with, what they're dealing with. Come, let's go. You couldn't be a trenchy, so you could go and tell the others what we're talking about. Well, yeah, they do implants. They plant a lot of us looking like us among us to report to them what's happening. Anyways, so let's talk. But let me, as long as I see you, girl, come to we go walk Sunday afternoon. Hit me in the inbox and say, yes, I will come with you. Wherever you go, I will follow. Oh, Lord, yes. So I had that conversation with two sets of people, basically. One set saying, listen, development is coming to West La Penitence or Boyston. We welcome the development. We know we have to move, we will move. Because we got the resources to move, or the government has agreed to give us resources to move. And we are glad that this development is happening and people can move, because people who are lazy-minded and have negative qualities about them will be forced to move out of the area. Where are they going? We are forcing them out of the area, but where are they going? Where would you like them to go when they're forced out of the area? There's no kit and kin there. There's no community there. There's no brotherly and sisterly love there. There's no you watch my back, I watch yours there. This is yeah, you, yeah, me. Dog eat dog. Crab in a barrel. I can get by, so I don't care trick crap about you. So, them would up on the reserve, let me throw them out. With no concern about where they have to go. Or how they will get by. I got news to y'all. That mindset will come right back to haunt you. It will come right back to haunt you. Because when you disrupt my source of livelihood, by breaking down my shop, destroy my legal hustle, because you want development and you got resources for development, and I eking out a living out of the environment I'm in, because I wasn't given a gold spoon in my mouth when I was born. I didn't born with gold and silver spoon in my mouth. I grew up, I was born into a struggling family, and the cycle of poverty has been perpetuated by the wickedness of government. Because I have not been given a fair chance to be educated, the social services, the social system didn't cater for me because I was born into poverty. The schools in my community are not the best equipped. They don't have the best teachers. They don't have the best trained teachers. A lot of these teachers who operate in my community are not specialists so that they can recognize my learning difficulties and my challenges and work diligently with me to overcome them, and so I can rise above the problems into which I was born. No, I didn't get the opportunity. But a burden of coming out of poverty is left only and solely on me. And those of you around me see me as the problem. Y'all don't see a system that is oppressive, a system that does not cater for the ordinary man, a system that makes no provision for lifting people out of poverty and giving them a chance to grow. Despite the fact that there are no resources that can make that happen. No. All y'all see me being lazy-minded and with negative traits. And so I must be thrown out of the community. I must be banished because a 3-lane road is coming through. Where am I going to be banished to? What will I do when I get banished? When I send again for your news break, I will be a thorn in your flesh. Because I have to survive in that community. It's that community that I know. And I will have to survive in that community. And you won't get rest at night. You won't be able to rest at night. You ain't gonna get peace. Because since you got the resources to development and I ain't got nothing, and my little hustle should be destroyed and nobody caters to me, I'm gonna hustle out for you. I will hustle out with you. But if you stand as a community and you say, listen, these people have been here for 40 plus years and they're not getting a wrong deal or another wrong deal in their lives because the system has not catered for them. It didn't cater for them now. It's not catering for them now. And we believe that in all fairness and in the name of humanity, something needs to be done to address this situation to give these people a break. You will be saving yourself a lot of trouble. There was a young man who spoke to me on camera when I went into that area and we did that live. I don't know if you all heard him, but you know what he said? This ain't going down so. If they can't cater to our needs, when we lose, they lose. And right now they're parking their vehicles still by Saffron Street and still by Cemetery Road. But I want to bring them close. Did you hear that? In short, there's a mentality like mine out there. If I can't eat, you can't eat. If I can't eat, you can't eat. And so if you can't, if you're taking bread out of my mouth, I ain't prepared to give me a biscuit, we have problems. Because I'm going to make you uncomfortable. So all those of you talking about development coming to West La Penitence and Albistown, and those people who are not so well to do and didn't get a gold spoon or silver spoon in their mouths, and are caught in the cycle of poverty, if you think that they should be banished, think again. Because wherever you banish them to, there will be a problem for somebody. Why don't we band ourselves together as a society and demand that our resources, as in the oil money, be used to help those people out of poverty and provide a light for them? When Clive Thomas of the WPA suggested, while the Granger administration was in office, every Guyanese should at least be considered for $5,000 US, $1 million grant, cash grant, conditional grant it was. I will explain why it was conditional. Give every Guyanese $1 million. Every Guyanese household, as a matter of fact, was a suggestion. Every Guyanese household, give them $1 million from this oil money as a means of poverty alleviation. The great know-it-all Granger scoffed on the idea. The third-term demon said this party will consider it. But while Clive Thomas said give it to every household, it is evident it will be perhaps it can be considered evident that the PPP is giving but not to every household. The PPP will not say that they're giving this $1 million cash grant because it came from WPA, the idea. They will not acknowledge the source of the idea. But there are those of us who believe that they're doing it clandestinely. But let me show you how it is a good idea and why it was a good idea and how it will pull people and could pull people out of poverty in those communities we're talking about. First thing, it's conditional. The household that receives that $5,000 US, $1 million, there's some things that were suggested that they have to honor. Their children have to go to school regularly, consistently. Their children have to get regular health checks. Those are at least two things I remembered. And so immediately you put conditions in place to bring people out of poverty and keep them healthy. Why? Education is a means of getting out. School doesn't have to be academia only. It could be a source of skill training. So that $1 million grant that Clive Thomas was suggesting be given to households had conditions with it, and conditions which were aimed at ensuring that steps were taken to bring people out of the state of decadence and poverty that they were. So those who weren't born with a silver spoon in their mouth were going to get the semblance of a silver spoon to start with. But no, it wasn't accepted by Granger. It's not being implemented fairly by the PPP. And Guyanese don't see the wisdom in it. Because nobody is taking to the streets. I like to talk about taking to the streets. I think the streets are the equalizer. The streets allow for citizens and government to be on equal par. Because when citizens really take to the streets, government have to bow and get to sit down and negotiation with them. But no, Guyanese don't see the wisdom in confronting this government for equal and fair distribution of dual income. They don't see that. And in the communities where the sufferation is, instead of residents of those communities band themselves together and defend their community members, they join with the oppressors and say, kick them out. Kick them out. They're good for nothing. But I want to tell you something. When those who are good for nothing get kicked out, the developers, as you see them of those communities, they will find place. They will create opportunities for their rich friends and families to come and establish themselves in those communities. And you will be seen in their eyes as the lesser. And they will be conspiring to kick you out too. Keep that in mind. So as much as you feel comforted because you have, note that you too are at risk of being displaced by their rich friends and cronies. Have we considered that? Do we even consider that? I see every day. If you look at the action of the PPP, you will come to realize that they see themselves as closest to white. And so they tell themselves they're superior to black. And they're doing everything to push blacks to the periphery of the society. Push y'all out. Push y'all out of high-paying jobs. Push y'all out of public places. Push y'all out of being faces of the government. Push y'all out. And so you would be barely able to survive on the periphery. A friend of mine said the other day, in the time of John Crow, we were shoe shines. That has changed, but it really hasn't changed. Because back then, your shoe, the shyness of your shoe perhaps, was a representation of your status. Now your cars are representations of your status. And many of us are now car shines. Check and see the hustles that black people get to do around this city and so on, man. You could wash a car by the corner and nobody ain't got time with you. You could be parking a car by the corner. Hey, parking! What was it? Drop, 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 drop! Left something. Nobody ain't got time with you on that. But the minute you try to do a sustainable thing, they're all over you. And y'all ain't recognizing that. Y'all ain't recognizing that. When you're getting 2,400 square foot, assuming my calculation is right, to build a home, like you can't plant anything in the backyard to feed yourself. People are getting 2,400 acres to build high rises and resorts. And you're comfortable with that. You don't see a problem with it. And so when I call certain representatives of the government who are of black ancestry, African ancestry, jackasses, people get offended. But what else can I call them? If they sit there around the table and watch a national turkey being, not Turkey, the national turkey being carved up, and they're only getting the skin or the bones from that turkey for their people, what do you call them? If not jackasses. You walk around and talk of how Afrocentric they are, and they represent Afro-Guyanese in the government. And they chose to be in the government to represent their people. But when you look at their people, they're worse off, and they're not getting any better. What do you call them? Alan Shivnat, why are you here? Why are you here, Alan Shivnat? I'm preaching race hate and racist rants, always claiming to be victimized. Why are you here, Shivnat? You got other things to do. You got money to collect. You might be a fisher folk or a Gaisuko worker. You got money to collect or money to invest. You might be in a corrupt ring. What are you doing here? The fact that I can preach race and victimization by race says that it exists in this country. Parag says that there is no proof of discrimination in the distribution of lands, but she couldn't provide any evidence to debunk what we are saying. and she is in government. One would believe that as a minister of government, you have access to all the data. It's your government. And so if you have to defend your government against these claims of racism, then you have data to prove that your government is not discriminating. Let them show us how many house lots they distributed. They say they have distributed thousands of house lots in the last few years. Let them show us who those house lots went to. Let them show us who the COVID grants went to. Let them show us who the fishing grants went to. Let us show us where the cost of living reliefs were paid to. And you should not come and tell me that is not apartheid. Let us show us all the cases that have been withdrawn by the DPP and null-prossed. All the accused, let them show us that. And tell us it's not an apartheid state, because 90%, 99%, 99.9% of those cases that have been taken over by the DPP and null-prossed are of Indian ancestry. And you tell me they're in apartheid. She's not keeping things in perspective. What kind of perspective? Huh? You come here as a gatekeeper for the PPP? The practitioners of apartheid? Bring the evidence, bring the data to debunk what I'm saying. Bring the data to debunk what I'm saying. Let them show you how many persons have been employed by this government in the last 2 years. Let them give you the analysis by ethnicity and tell me it is not apartheid. Likewise, let them show you how many they dismissed and show me if it's not apartheid. If it's not victimization, if it's not discrimination, if it's not racism, rank racism. And this is not practiced only by those in government. It's practiced by their low-tier lieutenants. A Guyanese of African ancestry recognized that there were no vendors in front of Annandale Secondary School or in the vicinity of Annandale Secondary School to provide refreshments and so on to the children. That individual got a mobile and set it up nearby to the school. This is since school was reopened, since September, since January time I'm talking about. Like I said, I remember these things because the evidence is always there. And started operating out there. The HM, the head teacher for Annandale Secondary, told the children they must not go to that canteen out there to buy anything. They must not buy anything from that canteen out there. And anytime he sees them buying things from that canteen out there, they're going to get hell to pay. And in a matter of days, an Indian woman was brought and placed in the school compound, under the school building, to sell. It's not racism. It's not apartheid. Even as we speak, there are many schools in African Guyanese communities that have no vending permitted because prior, since the days of COVID, say there must be no vending in schools. But go into the Indian communities and see if them mamu and chachi not sell. Because there's been no public lifting of the ban. But in the bottom houses, they say, yeah, I could let them sell. Let them sell. I want to go bother them. Just like they did at the more martyrs observances. Tell all our supporters come set up stand. And I want to give them grant. Not only did they give them grant, they buy out all that they had and share it out. If not, keep things in perspective for me listening. Whoever claims discrimination should be the one to provide proof. Thank you, I am providing it. Whoever tries to debunk the claims of discrimination should be the ones to provide proof. Tell Dottie Parag. And all the others to provide the proof to debunk what we are saying. This is an apartheid state. I'm going to touch on an issue. I was hoping to give them some time, but I'm going to touch on it right now. Y'all know me. I'm the East Coast man. I always checking out what's happening on the East Coast. I was checking out what's happening. It's right next to me now. Right in Buxton. Let me address the Bishop. Another Guyanese of African ancestry, you see he's there. He's Afrocentric and he's looking into the interests of black people. 25 bridges to 25 contractors in Buxton for a total of $56 million comes down to approximately $2.4 million per bridge, which is not actually that price for every bridge because some bridges are smaller than some. Can you imagine? In this day and age, first and foremost, building timber bridges in communities, especially building timber bridges where there's constant use of heavy equipment, constant passage of heavy duty vehicles, constant use. Main thoroughfares. Can you imagine building timber bridges as main thoroughfares? It's happening in Buxton. Right? It's happening in Buxton. Go to Gurup. Gurup where the power plant is, on the railway line. I see that powerful concrete bridge which leads into Gurup. You're telling me they ain't got apartheid? The evidences are right there. You ain't got to search for. Whatever going on in Buxton. We will give you 25 bridges. We will determine the specifications of those bridges. In most instances, we're going to design them according to what existed there since the 1960s. Or 1980s, or even 1990s. We're going to use those same old designs and give you back timber bridges. But guess what? We will not consult with your representatives at the Neighborhood Democratic Council. Never mind, we are in control of the NDC. In case I'm speaking in parables, let me explain to you. The PPP controls the Buxton Falls NDC because they won the majority seats in the last local government election. When they were giving out sanitation grants, they gave them the grants and told them spend it in enterprise. Spend it in fouls. Right? So pressure bust pipe. Buxton people identifying apartheid in the state because they're discriminating. They ain't doing nothing for Buxton. We're going to give out 25 bridges. But we're not going to sit with anybody at the NDC. Not the overseer, not the assistant overseer, not the chairperson, not the councillors, to discuss our approach to these 25 bridges in Buxton. And so when there is no consultation, it's dictatorship. But when you go across the island there, you ask them what they want. What can we do for you? How y'all want these drains? We're going to do concrete drains to you. Right? It's dictatorship. It's apartheid. I don't care how you see it. No consultation in Buxton. This is the result. There's a bridge being constructed into the burial ground. Or a bridge that gives access to the burial ground is being constructed. You know what's the size of the bridge? Anybody give me the right size? Or, yeah, this is a question. I ain't going to answer it just yet. I want y'all to tell me, what is the suggested size? What size would you suggest a bridge be constructed at if it is given access to burial ground? Y'all answer that for me. Answer it in the next 2 minutes, man. If not, I want you to answer it in particular. Give me a suggested size. What size would you recommend for a bridge that is giving access to burial ground in your community, Shivnad? Talk to me. And any other chance she could answer the question too. So, we ain't gonna say black people crying foul. I want to be able to say these recommendations came from the trenches who are defenders of this corrupt apartheid cabal. Y'all give me the information. There's a man here ask me, where is Mr. You Understand? I don't know who is Mr. You Understand. Beasts don't think. Because they're all that. Birds of a feather flock together, they're all beasts. All they're concerned with is how much soup they could get off the table, off the backs of the people. I'm waiting. And I'm gone out. You were so into the class just so we gone out. I see another clump in here earlier. I don't remember the name, so I really don't think. I want to give me the recommended size to the bridge. Y'all give me the recommended size. Since they ain't going to answer, I ain't going to answer for them. A casket. I understand the standard sizes standard size of a casket is 2.5 feet wide, 30 inches wide, about that. If you got anybody who got these measurements, y'all could share them with me. But I understand a casket has about 30 inches wide. That's 2.5 feet. It has to be carried by 6 pallbearers, at least. 6 pallbearers, at least. What size of bridge do you need? We're doing maths. We're doing maths. What size of bridge would you need to accommodate a 2.5 foot casket plus 6 pallbearers, 3 on each side? What size of bridge do you recommend? Y'all talk to me. No, it can't be 6 by 4. the length, sorry, it covers the trench. It has to go across the trench. It has to go across the trench. So it has the width across the trench, the length across the trench. But what width would you recommend? Where are the guy out? I can tell you what width they intend to build the bridge. 5 feet. 5 feet. So you got a casket at 2.5 feet. And a bridge at 5 feet. Put a casket in the middle there. Noel Point says you need a 7-foot width. Neil Williams said at least 10 foot. There's a Champagne said at least 5 foot. That's where you ran. And I'm demonstrating why you ran. Because if you put a 2.5 foot casket in the middle of a bridge, you got 2.5 foot left. And if you divide it equally on the sides, you got 1.25 foot on each side. Who could walk on 1.25 foot bearing a casket? I don't want to make it a little more ridiculous. Where you open the handles on the casket, there will be at least 4 inches. So it takes away from that 1.25 foot by 4 inches. So you got 11 inches left. Right? You got 11 inches for pallbearers to walk to carry a casket into the cemetery. And if it's not jackassery, if it's not idiocy, that is racism and apartheid. Y'all decide who is it to me. The Minister of Public Infrastructure, Works, whatever you call him, who say he walked Buxton with the best bridge engineer and decide on these bridges to be done, got to be a jackass. To watch a bridge going into a cemetery and build it at 5 feet. Unless, like I'm saying, he ain't got no say. I say he's just a window dresser. And since they're not likely to do that in Enmore or Traspay or Enterprise, it's apartheid. It's apartheid. I don't care what you say. Where's Shemnat? Shemnat, where are you? We talking the thing. You come here to keep things in perspective. I'm putting them in perspective for you. I'm putting them in perspective for you. My friend calls it low-cost politics. That is what it is. Low-cost politics. It is apartheid. Oh, them black man a buxton and say we not do nothing for them. I will fix 25 bridges to them at the lowest possible cost. At the lowest possible cost. Contractors are already singing. The price we getting for this bridge, you can't even fool your teeth hole. We got a cutting corners. Imagine they have designed a bridge without no bearers. Just the stringers, they ain't got no bearer. Only those in construction might understand what I'm talking about, stringers and bearers, right? If you got a long member, you call it the bearers, the stringers. Stringers. Them long beam that you're going to throw across the trench. We're bearing them, we're supporting them from underneath. Bridge is designed 20 foot, 22 feet through. That's the length of the bridge. And then you know, bear us to support the structure. You're going to end up with some nice bunks. In constant bunks, the bridge gonna broke with something on it. But the Bishop came with his best bridge engineer and walked Buxton. And he's going to send his best bridge. He's going to send his best bridge engineer to supervise the construction of these bridges, these mediocre, low-cost bridges, because they're involved in low-cost politics. Apartheid. Call it what you like. 56 million for 25 contractors in Buxton. $156 million for one Indian contractor. One Indian contractor. In some other community. Apartheid. You have friendship not for me. I want to talk to him. Talk to me. What the contractors should involve. Listen, in all of this, Barbara Barrington, let me tell you something. In all of this, I ain't blaming no contractor for nothing. Contractors are contracted to build according to design and engineering drawing. If I want to work and you call me for do it, I'm going to do it how you got it. I ain't going to try to convince you that you got it wrong because I mightn't get this work. All I want is a work. Who am I? I'm not your engineer. When I do the work or I start doing the work, and you recognize that this work ain't going to turn out right, you could stop me and we're going to talk about variation so I can get more money. That is how contractors operate. You pay the contractor. Did you pay the contractor for engineering services? A contractor got to point out to you. Y'all best get grip of this thing. Y'all best understand this thing. Anyways, what's the time? It's 20 past 8. The line's going to be open up. I said telling you about corruption. Now over at Enmore in DC there. I started talking the story last week, you know. They got big fraud, you know. The overseer there, of course, he looked like one of them. I mean, I want no black man overseer in our village. Right? I mean, I want no black man in our village. So they got an Indian overseer as usual. You know what? Taxpayers been paying money, and the money wasn't being what they call it, deposited. The money was being misappropriated. Is that corruption or watching that? Is that corruption or not? As a matter of fact, we are under the sun. When you find the community's property, community's records, local government records kept at the house of an overseer. This overseer wasn't only misappropriating the people's taxes. You hear me? Man was hiding the books from the authorities. The man had the rates and tax collection book at his house. So nobody could audit it. Millions of dollars turned up short. The Region 4 authorities have been involved. Local government authorities have been involved. You know what I did? That's how we're going to get some time to make this right. We're going to get some time to make this right. Here are some of the findings. Monthly financial statements cannot be produced for the year 2022. Bank statement cannot be produced since February 2022. Cash book has not been updated and is at the overseer's home. No deposit slips are attached to collection cash book statements to verify that deposits were made. The yearly financial statement for 2021 is not prepared. Are you going to prepare it when you're going to expose fraud? Monthly payment vouchers are not in order. NIS staff are not paid for the year 2022. Here are all the things that happen. Those are some of the findings. And here what I decide to do. The overseer was told to bring back the book immediately. The overseer was told to go and get bank statements from the bank. The overseer was told to produce the deposit slips for verification. There was supposed to be a visit a few days ago. I think that visit took place. But I still tell you what I do. Or what I decide to do. What I decide to do. Give the overseer, I think, 2 weeks to make it right. And if it is not made right in 2 weeks, then they will decide on the way forward. Should not. I hope you thereby. What do you call that? And what should you be doing? Hi, Shireen Baines. What do you call that? And what should you be doing? Y'all didn't answer? I call it as corruption. I call it as fraud. I call it misbehavior in public office. They charge Winston Jordan for that. Why this overseer is not charged? Why is this overseer not charged? Once he makes it right in about 2 weeks, we might simply send him home. Or maybe he could keep his job and promise to be of good behavior. The lines are open. 6225933 is the number to call. Apartheid Guyana, where even there is no consideration for decency of the dead. No consideration for decency of the dead. Shivnath said, what? I crime victimhood and racism. The evidence is out there. I'll call Sonia. Let her debunk it. And not I ain't talking nothing about Sonia and what she's doing to the scholarship students, you know. And what they're doing to employment in the public service, you know. Or employees and prospective employees in the public service. Call your live, good morning.
Good morning to that. I had a friend who said it years ago. When Jacqueline was first. The man said, look at something. Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Fiji, wherever you have these people, Afghanistan, wherever you have people like them, it will be intrinsically corrupt, and they are intrinsically corrupt. It's a part of their DNA. So corruption You don't go to jail for that. You just get slapped on your wrist and continue moving. Move on to the next victim. That's the people. They cannot run anything straight. Any place they go. Remember this one over here, EasyJet? Gone with the people money, intrinsically corrupt. And we could list them, and we list them run infinite. All of them corrupt. Anyhow, that's it for today for me.
Thank you, caller. Caller live, good morning.
Yes, good morning to one and all. Brother Kadaki, I'm not a violent person. I don't usually promote violence. I don't usually promote violence. Growing up, boxing was always seemed to be a radical place, and people say boxing, people stop training, all this kind of stuff, and for some reason that boxing has gotten really tamed over the years. Things is happening, like for instance the NDC in boxing, boxing follows NDC. People wars are happening in nearby villages, and these works are happening in peace, and the people there are eating and they're living good, and people in Boston they're starving, they're not getting anything, and they're just watching on, and these things are happening and they're not doing nothing. These people are working in peace, building bridges and roads and all these things, and they're doing all these things in peace. And people from Buxton and the other villages of the East Coast that nothing has been done, African villages that nothing has been done in those villages. They're just watching these things that are happening, and all we're doing is talking about these things that are happening, but we're not doing anything. I was there, my boots were strapped up, and I think that we need to strap all of our boots. And we need to get real radical. We need real movements about should start happening. We don't need to be speaking about this anymore and complaining about this anymore. We need to get out there and do what we gotta do. People will be hurt, but so be it. Sacrifices has to be made. But a change needs to be done, and we need to have a change right now. Like I said again, my boots are strapped up. We gotta get out there. That's my time.
Thank you, caller. Talk about getting out there. Let me go and protest today now. Who coming? Hit me up in the inbox. Today's Thursday. We normally do Tuesday to Thursday. I missed yesterday. I couldn't avoid it. But y'all hit me up. Tell me who coming today. Y'all give me 10 persons, man. I'm going to go out with 10. Hit me up. And I also said I'm going to go into a community on Sunday. I need some folks to walk with me. We got flyers and so to give out and gaff with people. So y'all come join me now. Who wants to come? Hit me up. Let me go. Call it live. Good morning.
Morning, Kadaki, and morning, Guyana. My take on the situation in Guyana is the Indians will not want to accept or will not accept that they have gotten all the lands, all the money, and have been discriminating. They will never accept that based on some of your Indian viewers there, because they're like, show us where the discrimination is. So as a society, is it African Guyanese that are that stupid to understand what these people are doing? And if they're not seeing that, they're simply, I'm looking for the word to describe us. If we're not seeing that, or we just comfortable with what's going on. Over and over each day, it's proven what they're doing. In what you would explain in reference to $56 million, 25 contractors, while they're getting crumbs, they're giving up billions to their people. And we're satisfied with that. So he's not talking about that type of thing, as well as $2 million per bitch. All he's telling you, oh, it's not discrimination. Prove otherwise. But going back, if African Guyanese do not get off their behind and challenge this criminal mafia racist PPP along with the African Guyanese that are in the government, why aren't we taking 1, 2, and 3 for the team? Because it's going to keep happening over and over, and we're going to be going downwards while they go up. So for African Guyanese, hell, take the friggin' the boo-boo out your eyes and see what's in the future for you. And when you look at it, I am sure if you basically looking at appeasement and getting a little bit here and there, next 10, 15 years, believe me, you will be slave in your own country. And, it baffles me to think that they do not see that and will not fight. So I guess the fight has been beaten out of us or pulled over our eyes by just getting a little something here and there, and we sit down and just take it. Licks, we bending over while they shove it up. And we still said, how far you want to shove it? And that's my take.
Thank you, caller. The lines remain on 6225933 is the number to call. Call, let me talk the thing with Shivnat. Where Shivnat there, boy? Shivnat disappear. Man, listen, y'all just are going me along, so. Y'all, oh goodness. Lines remain open. Alright, y'all didn't feel like calling this morning. Let me talk protest. Who come in and protest? I noticed Scarlet Swing. Call it live, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Kanak. I listen to everything. First thing, I don't know when I could come to protest because yesterday, with all the police told the magistrate and the findings was that they could not have placed me with that article, the problem that I had. The magistrate put me to pay $500,000 in fine. So now remember I'm a pensioner and I working at the lumberyard for $12,000. So I got to find that amount of money within 6 months. So I don't know how I gonna make out. Anyway,
who's the magistrate,
Joe? Ali at Lenore Magistrate Court.
Did you have a lawyer?
I had a lawyer, yes.
How about the lawyer do?
The lawyer just listen to the lawyer and them, but people tell me I should try to appeal the case.
Yes, that's my point. The lawyer should appeal it. Anyhow, continue.
Yeah. Now I'm moving along. I listened part of the program with I listened to Dr. Hinds, and he was talking about this report to Naeem Chan. Now when you listen to what this man went on with, you have got to ask yourself if what that Indian boy said the other day about poisoning the African people, and if we could accept Indian people, some of them, because if this ever comes out of a person, defiles them. And if he, a renowned reporter and a person who many people would look at Naeem Chan, could come up with that in a match about a match and trying to bring out the apartheidism that is now going on in Guyana, it leaves people to think far, at least I as an African, will now want to study what is the feeling of an Indian person to me being of African descent.
That's one. Now with the cricket, you say many persons. Remember, we have got to decide where we're going to be spending our 2 cents. If we should have gone out to that cricket match and fully supported, many of us are on the breadline. We need that same money to put into our homes. Because when you go to the market for ukam plant, you gotta buy 1 pound of cabbage for $400 and something. You can't buy a pound of celery. A pound of celery go more than $800, and I think it's more than that. Shell out the same thing. So if I, along with many wise thinking Guyanese, would have denied myself going to the cricket match and watching it on a TV screen or one of my palm tap in my hand and save the cricket money. So hence, they had to go to full the stadium. Because right about now, we ain't got money for spend. And I'm glad that Africans are being awoke to know that the person who got the cricketing franchise is one of the people who is being given money by the government. So if we can continue not only cricket, we must do this in all the places where they got. Let them go and support themselves and let me keep a little bit for we. We should support more protesting. That is what we should do. I didn't get to hear the news properly because right now, Kadaki, I am mixed up. I think we gained a little victory with GCOM. And once we have gained that minute victory, I know more victory is to come. And if more people could join us on the protest in front of GCOM, we will knock down more doors and we will accomplish what we are setting out to achieve with biometrics and a proper list, a non-bloated voters list. But I feel that this that happened to me yesterday, it is because I am very vocal in matters that I think is affecting the African community. So I was targeted. The person who led that charge, that is how the house slave work. They take menial amount of money to do the biddings of our oppressors. And they don't stop to see that they are just a scapegoat for the oppressors to try to oppress us. Who is going to bring light and take us out of the quagmire, the suction cesspit that we are in? And lastly, the bishop came to Den Amstel because of the house slave to do a road. I sent you pictures. When the people started doing the road, they did a lot of bad work. Anyway, they had to remove it and start it over. Now, the people put down this crusher run, they roll it in a lot of time, and then they spray on a set of tar on the road. Right now, when the sun shines, we'll get like 2 inches of tar or whatever, it is melting. And they took away the balance. They ain't even asphalt the road. Imagine the road just done done, and grass growing up through the road, and you're seeing the raw sand coming through the top of the road that they are finished doing. And in the other Indo communities, like Blankenberg, La Jealousy, and Hague, they are doing proper roads. Last but not least, I sent you a measurement for the bridge because I don't know the length of the trench. So I said the length, at least 10 feet concrete bridge with 2 sills of 10 by 10. But I didn't put in the steel and so. So is the bridge you got it in because you don't know if at any time a horse may attempt to go over the bridge to put a coffin or a body into the ground. So that is the measurement that I give. So if I cannot come because of my financial constraint, I will be on the phone giving you strength. Bye-bye.
Call me about your financial constraint. We're going to pay your passage to come. Call it live. Good morning.
Good morning, Kadaki. And good morning, the listening audience. That guy, Shiv Narayan or Shiv Nath or whatever his name is, who we know is a trench crapper, and who was trying to present a fake or some salient point to justify what you repudiated so skillfully. You know, when facts are too much for some people and it's overwhelming, they turn ninjas, they go underground and they hide. Barring that, let's go to Claudette Singh. That latest move which she made after so many years have passed, I wonder if people are really taking that to mean a victory for the coalition. I may have a different take on it. Why didn't she not do it at the time she put forward the shortened list of names? Why she wait until after 2 years? To me, I believe she sat with the cabal, Jagdeo and company, Anil, and they decide to try a last-minute effort to gain some respect with respect to the behavior in the clandestine election which they stole. They would have come up with some plan, and that resulted in her giving those names to the police. We know the police is an annex of Freedom House. Hickins and his boys will know what to do. And remember, Fisher Bishop has a brother, if he's still there, at the section which will also have to look at the names to verify their authenticity or lacks thereof, to make a determination as to the truth. These people have been known to be notorious where lies are concerned. What do Guyanese think will be the eventuality? They will concoct, as they've been doing all the years, a bundle of lies and come out and tell you these people were in Guyana, or this is not true what they say about these people. And they wouldn't give you any facts, as they've been doing with all the situations so far in Guyana. They make casting statements and they cannot support it. Imagine the Attorney General went to court so often and cannot come up with defense or evidence to support the act that they made the police and DPP forwarded to the courts. They cannot defend these cases. Look how long Mingo and company languishing with charges hanging over them, and there is no proof. So why do we think it's going to be any different now? They will lie to the teeth. So I wouldn't smile over what she has done. What she is doing is laying the foundation for them to continue lying their guts out. People can't be trusted. And let me say one thing before I leave. With respect to dishonesty, as one the caller said earlier, it is in their bones. It is in their being. It is in their DNA. That's how they survive. I had said a statement earlier. Name me one successful, rich Indian businessman in Guyana who has a clean hand. Just name me one, and I will fly to the moon without a space rocket. Trust me on that. None. That is their very existence. Corruption. And if you check all over the world, you'll find wherever they have them, that's what they do. They are so corrupt that the world has to change its meaning now. It is way beyond corruption now. You guys have a wonderful day. Thank you for the good work that you have been doing.
Thank you for calling. It's now 12 minutes to the 9 o'clock hour. I'm still waiting for y'all to tell me who come in and protest with me today. As if you ain't tell me I ain't going nowhere. I'm going to protest against you. Yes. That Claudette story, we're going to discuss that Claudette story in depth tomorrow. But I believe there is more in the mortar than a person with a Claudette story. Call it live, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Kadaki. Morning, Kadaki.
Morning, caller.
Yeah, I'm saying, if anybody noticed that since these people put in the input into cricket matches and them sort of thing, it's more like a business now, you know, it becomes a business. Since the catfish boss and the jaggerat, they involved in cricket along with the Minister of Sports and all these things, all them. It seems as though we're losing the matches more now because we're losing the matches because these guys they're putting more put into cricket because of business. They want money. They're looking for money, right? Sooner or later, I think they're gonna involve Mercury to win cricket now, to lobby for them. You watch it. And that's my contribution.
Thank you, caller. I want to ask you something. What is not a business in the PPP? Let me take his call. Call it live, good morning.
Good morning, Kadaki. That last caller, he's right. The Fisher brother is right at the post office.
Budu is there too.
Pardon me?
Budu is there too.
His brother.
Go ahead, caller.
Pardon me?
Go ahead, we're listening.
Yeah. I will pay any money. This is one time I will be happy if the fat boy and the stupid Jack Duke don't promote Roxanne George. I will be very, very happy for that. Bye-bye.
Have a good day. What is not a business to the PPP? I say I'm going to deal with this GCOM story in depth tomorrow. Tomorrow is Free Talk Friday. We can talk about it, man. Because it has a lot to talk about. I can't finish it in 10 minutes. What is not a business to the PPP? Superbet. Who owns Superbet again? I can't remember. Y'all tell me if you know. Superbet, I bet, all kind of bets around this country. Horse racing and so on around this country, wherever them horse race place name and so. They bet, sports betting, let me just call it that. Sports betting is all around this country. Can you imagine the odds? Can you imagine the odds? Amazon Warriors versus Jamaican Tallawers. Can you imagine the odds? For every dollar you bet, it might be a 3-to-1 odds, it might be a 4-to-1, 6-to-1 odds, whatever the odds. Can you imagine the odds? Think about that while I take this call. Call you live, good morning.
Good morning, Karaki. Karaki, tell Rhonda I'm so sorry to hear what's going on with her. And tell her do not lose faith. Just keep at it. And she, as what you said to her, she should go back and open back that case because that is not right. But Karaki, you guys know what's going on. Everything is just for a time, and there will be a time when all this nonsense is going to be thrown right back in their face. You have to do the right thing for the country because everyone worldwide is seeing what's going on. And I don't know who's behind this, why they want to disgrace Guyana like that, what Guyana have done to them for them to disgrace our country like that, for having people talking about our country like that. You don't have no heart for people to be talking. They're feeling good with what they're doing, but if they be on the other side to hear what people are saying, about our country. It is very sad that, and it goes for the black and the Indian, that they're saying that we cannot stand up to them. Why are we sitting down? We don't understand what they're doing to us is wrong? They understand, but I guess they want free money. They don't care. They don't want to get up, as some caller turn and say, you got to get up and fight for what belongs to you, or get out there and work. Make business for yourself, and just don't depend on people. Nobody's not telling you not to take the money. Take it, and when you take it, make sure you do something with it. Just don't spend it going partying and all that kind of nonsense. You have kids, make sure you turn that money over for your kids. Kadaki, have a good day.
Thank you, caller. Let me call you back in 5 minutes. Yes. Have you considered the odds in these cricket games? Now, when I look at a bet, the schedule of bets placed, and I realize, boy, hey, if Amazon Warriors lose this game, I grind down big. Or hey, if Amazon win this game, I lose him big. What are the possibilities of me throwing the game according to them? What are the possibilities? Have you looked and seen all of the investigations around the world of all of these cricketers who were debarred and who perhaps went to jail and who got dropped from team and so on because they were throwing games? Are you then surprised that every time these people are involved, according to you, the Amazon Warriors lose? They own the Amazon Warriors. They own the Amazon Warriors. I understand they own the Jamaican Tallowers too. And so if we say to two of the best teams, throw the game. Let's throw the game. We are the owners of the team, and if we say throw the game and you want to play, you're going to throw the game. I'm just being the devil's advocate. They say I like to do that. Caller, you're live. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Kadasi. I'm just calling to make 2 points. You see what happened is what's going on in Guyana is it got to do with the international situation. The problem is because of Guyana discovering all this oil. The government, the foreign entity, they are what instigate this problem between the black and the Hinds, and they do not see that. And when they do that, they want to create something like apartheid in Guyana, so that when the people start fight and come together, they start to fight, that they will come inside, and they will send in the peacekeeper troop. And when they does that, the peacekeeper troop will come and control the oil and control the wealth, like what they did in Haiti. And if people don't look and see that, we all are in bad trouble. I observe certain things that people do not know, and we have to indicate for the Indian and the black is the same thing they're doing. They try to put them together so they could send in their people to divide and to conquer the wealth of Guyana. And unless we don't come together, the Indian and the black come together and unite, they will never be peace in Guyana, and America would always get control in the wealth of these different foreign countries. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Bye. Yes.
I agree, but I disagree. We have some slight differences of opinions and so on with this call, but let it pass. Yes, oil and international dealings got to do with part of the problem we got. But before discovery of oil, we still had a problem of discrimination in this country. 23 years of the PPP, we still had a problem of discrimination in this country. We still had a problem of oppression in this country. it has gotten worse, or it is more visible now. It is more blatant. That's the word. It is more blatant because they have perhaps international support, but it was always there. Caller. So yeah, I'm asking you all a question. Can you imagine the amount of money that certain people stand to gain if they corrupt a cricket match? The PPP is about corruption. So do you put it past them? I don't know if you will, but I certainly don't. As in relation to the run issue, the first step is to recommend an appeal. The lawyers should appeal that fine, $500,000 to start with. According to Ronda, the prosecutor said the police can't tie the article to her. Then how is she being made to pay a fine? Maybe this magistrate listens to Kams TV and Sherrod Duncan and Mark Benchcup, and she knows the name Ronda Lane, and she's offended about the things Ronda Lane says about her type. And so she wants to punish her. I don't know. I'm just the devil's advocate. You all talk to me. We got 1 minute left. Take that 1 minute and indicate to me who is coming on the protest line today. I'm waiting. I said the other night I'm not supporting cricket because of da-da-da-da-da-da. Here again I'm saying that cricket is a vessel for corruption in this country. Right, Caesar said the bookies are at work. Ian James, some of y'all don't understand this thing, you know. Superbet is a Surinami's own company. Yeah, who got local franchises? Who are the local franchise owners? Ian James is giving an explanation during the game. His only explanation for Moti coming in before Odin Smith and Kimo Paul turning down singles when runs were desperately needed. I didn't see this game. I don't invest my time in this cricket because, like I said. But that's James's explanation. Good. Seems as though nobody wants to come protest with me, so I'm protesting today. I asked for people to come and walk with me on Sunday. Y'all indicate to me, but whether you come or not, I'm going to walk Sunday. Right? If I get indications of people wanting to protest between now and 12 o'clock, we will protest. Otherwise, I can stay home and do work. In the new month, I got a different strategy. Sunday, I'm going to walk. Who wants to come? Let me know. Yeah, I know. Give them ampers and people will come. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, they will come for as long as ampers are available. What happens when they're finished? Have a good day, y'all. I usually say even Glenn Lalu is paying people to protest. He doesn't got a big group, you know. Have a good day, y'all. Where's the walk going? I'm thinking I want to go to West La Penitentiary. There are lots of people there to talk about, or talk with. So I might start my walks in West La Penitence, hand out some flyers and talk with them and so on. So y'all talk to me. Hit me up on WhatsApp in the course of the day. Tell me whether you want to go and walk or you want to protest. Talk to me. Send me WhatsApp.